How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be a different type of video, obviously, than what I'm used to making. Used to making weekly, NFL in-season content, but the off-season, obviously, no games, so I got to change up the content a little. In this one, I am going to be looking back at my preseason predictions I made for the season. I laid out the schedule for every team, predicted the games they were going to win, lose, standings, playoff seeding, award winners, everything like that. So I know it says the title tab here that it was last modified October. Obviously, that's in the middle of the season. I swear I have not touched this since the start of the season. It must have just been I was looking back to see how my predictions are doing, and I must notice like a spelling typo or something like that and change it. But I swear I haven't changed any of my predictions in this. These were all from the preseason. So just a quick glance, before the video I was looking. Yeah, not very good. A lot of these are just absolutely awful. I mean, Jesus. I mean, some of them are god awful. Some of them were just absolutely terrible. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I look stupid, but hey, they're preseason predictions, right? If everyone did these, there probably wouldn't be too many pretty ones. So that turned out to be accurate. I did the same exact thing for the prior season, so the 2023 season. That one wasn't too pretty either, but it definitely was more accurate than how this one turned out. So, diving straight in here. So starting with the AFC East. So my team, I got our record right. We went 4-13. I got the wins and losses wrong, but at least I got my team right. I had us at 4-13, and we finished 4-13. Dolphins, I had them at 10-7. Not too far off. They went 8-9, so 2 games off there. Tua missed a bunch of time. I couldn't really account for that. My preseason predictions, I can't really predict a player to get injured. Maybe unless they get injured frequently too, I guess you could argue. So I wasn't too far off there. Bills, I did pretty good. What did they finished? What, 13-4, if I remember right? So with 2 games off, I expected them to take a bit of a step down this year, like a lot of people. I still had them at 11-6 making the playoffs, but I didn't expect them to be. I sort of the juggernaut, but that might be overstating a bit that they were this year. But so my first 3 teams, AFC East, I'm doing pretty good. And then you get to the Jets. I had the Jets, you can see, at 12-5. Oh boy. Literally, if you flip the record around, I was correct. But 12-5, yep, just a bit off of that one. They went 5-12. They went 5-12. Now, I I was very optimistic on the Jets this year. Obviously, I had them at 12-5 winning the division. I expected Rodgers to be good this year. I expected the offense to be good this year. I expected the defense to be really good this year. And obviously, I think you can make an argument they had the single most disappointing season in the history of sports with all the expectation. Some people I even saw, like their preseason predictions, had the Jets in the Super Bowl. Some even picked them to win it, I saw. I thought that was a little bit too far. Um, I think I had the Jets out in the divisional round. We'll see when I get to the playoff tab here. But I mean, I was optimistic for the Jets this year. I mean, you just look at their schedule on paper. Going into the year, I think everyone kind of thought they were going to have a rough outing against the Niners. I had them losing that. And then Tennessee, no, everyone expected the Titans to be bad. Us, everyone expected them to be bad. Denver, everyone expected to be bad. The Vikings, everyone. So I had them on a big win streak here. The Vikings, everyone, no one expected them to be as good as they were this year. The Bills, again, I thought the Bills are going to kind of take a step back this year, maybe regress a little bit. And the Jets, in the past, defensively had played them very well too. So I figured they'd get one up on the Bills there. The Steelers, didn't expect them to be great. Then, again, us not great. Cardinals, I didn't expect them to be, too great this year. Colts, same with them. Seahawks, same with them. So yeah, based on the preseason going into the season, I don't think it was outrageous for me to pick 12-5. Obviously, I look like an idiot with the way the season transpired for them. So just a bit off with the Jets there, but at least I got my team, the Dolphins, and the Bills right. Moving on to the AFC North here. Yep, here's another rough prediction I had. I had the Bengals at 13-4. Now, let me preface. I did not like the vibes of the Bengals going into the season with the whole Jamar contract, the T. Higgins, the franchise tag. It just seemed like, kind of a mess, honestly, going into the year. However, on paper, I very much liked their schedule. I mean, us, obviously, we were set to be awful. The Chiefs, I had them losing that game, but again, they should have won that game. It wasn't for the BSPI call. Washington, some people were optimistic about Washington this year, but I still expect them to win. Carolina, that should have, I don't think anyone expected the Panthers to win that game. Baltimore, I had them splitting. The Giants, everyone had them winning. So, Philly, maybe that was a bit of a reach, but I didn't expect Philly to be as good as they were this year. The Raiders, I think a lot of the wins here weren't too egregiously bad, my predictions. They went 9-8, but there was multiple games they probably should have. They probably should have swept the Ravens. So there's 11 wins. They should have beaten the Chiefs. So there's 12. Um, yeah. So they should have won, multiple more games than they should have. So what's another game they lost? Washington probably should have won that. It certainly should have beat us. So I don't think 13-4 going into the year was too insane of a prediction. But yeah, just a bit off in that one. Baltimore, I was pretty close to them. I expected their defense to kind of take have some growing pains. That's kind of exactly what happened. Then, I figured they'd get into a groove late in the year. That's exactly what happened. Um, well, they lost the Philly game, but they won their next four after their bye. They went 12-5. I had them at 11-6, so I was pretty close to that prediction at least. Steelers flipped their record. They finished 10-7. I had them at 7-10. I was a bit down on the Steelers this year, but they were one of the top teams in the league for a while, and then they went on a losing streak to end the year. But not terribly far. Well, I guess 3 wins. 10-7, 7-10. Obviously, a big difference. But record wise, in terms of record at least. But not too great. Not too great the some of my predictions here. Oh yeah, here speaking of stat, I was so optimistic about the Browns this year. I had them at 12-5. Now I didn't think Deshaun Watson is going to play great this year, but I thought he would be able to honestly not necessarily be a game manager, but play like similar to how Joe Flacco did. I figured, Joe Flacco was super old, and he played great. I'm going to assume Deshaun Watson, finally, with the, fall off season, he's healthy. Hopefully he can get in the groove here. Cleveland had a really good defense 2 years ago. And yeah, well, they had an absolute disaster of a season. What did they go 3-14? So I was a bit off in that one. I mean, this is my logic when I predicted the Browns go 12-5. 2 years ago, they had a Cinderella room at quarterback. They had Watson, Flacco came in late in the year. They had DTR start. They had like 400 different starting quarterbacks, and they still, what did they go 11-6? And yeah, they went 11-6, if I remember right. They made the playoffs. You got smoked by the Texans in a wild card round, but still, they won 11 games. I believe it was 4 different starting quarterbacks. I figured, all right, Sean Watson, he stays healthy the whole year. If they can win 11 games, there's 4 different starting quarterbacks. I'm going to assume Deshaun Watson can, maybe at least win one more than that if the defense plays as good as it did. Yep. Obviously, that did not happen. Obviously, Deshaun Watson got hurt, but even when he was healthy, they were a complete mess and a disaster. So just a bit off with the Browns prediction there. Houston got again. I didn't get their wins and losses, 100% correct, but I had them at 10-7. They went 10-7, so good for me there at least. The Jags 9. I see a lot of people were down on the Jags going into the year. turns out they were right. I was wrong. I was not too high on the Jags this year, but I had them at 9-8. I thought they'd be competing for the division, playing a lot better than they did. Um, what they go 5-12, the Jags. So, 4 wins off, so not great, but I guess not the worst either. Titans, I did pretty good when the Titans go. I think they went 3-14. I had them at 5-12, so not too far off there. Colts, I was off on. They went, or actually not too far off. They went 8-9. I had them at 6-11. I knew having the Colts at 6-11 was going to be a bit bold. I honestly, even when I predicted them to go 6-11, I wasn't really. I was like, all right, they're probably going to get more wins than that. But they made the playoffs with Minshew. I'm going to imagine Richardson's better. Richardson was not better. Minshew played better 2 years ago than Richardson did this year. I absolutely, I think. Um, but yeah, not too far off. But the problem with this was when I'm, going to the win loss for every team. Like, okay, do I see this, like the Jets, for example, like, do I really see them at 12 wins? I'm like, yeah, I'll dock them one, 11th. Then when I go to adjust for the other team, I'm like, oh, do I really, see them at only this many wins and this many losses? Things like that. So balancing everything out, it's kind of a massive pain in the ass making this. That was kind of the problem I had with the Colts here. But again, not too far off with the Colts. You go to the AFC West here. I was well, I guess besides the Broncos, obviously, I was pretty accurate, sort of. The Chiefs went 15-2. I had them at 12-5. Now, again, I've talked about it in a lot of my videos. I think the Chiefs had the single luckiest season in the history of sports. A bunch of the wins they got, one play, like a fluke, a lucky call, or like the Raiders bobbling the snap happened, things like that. But still, 3 games off the Chiefs. I had them at 12-5. Probably should have finished around there, maybe even a bit less. They didn't get lucky, but hey, I was only 3 games off at least. Chargers, I was 2 games off. I had the Chargers at 9-8. Um, again, not so only 2 games off, but I at least I had about 500. Raiders, I was pretty accurate with. What did they go? 5-12, and I had them at 6-11. So not obviously only a game off there. Denver's obviously the big one. Denver went 10-7 this season, so I was 7 games off. And all right, in my defense though, no one expected the Broncos to be very good this year. Again, when I was talking about the Colts balancing wins and losses, and I had the Colts at 6-11, I'm like, okay, they're probably gonna win more games. That was kind of the situation I was in with the Broncos. I was like, oh, they're probably win like 5-ish games maybe, but I had them at 3-14. Yeah, they obviously overperformed. I think how pretty much everyone's expecting, probably even the most optimistic of Denver fans. So credit to the Broncos, dead wrong with them. So honestly, now that I'm talking about it, most of my predictions weren't too bad in the AFC, except for the Jets, Browns. But when they were bad, they were pretty bad. Jets, Browns, um, let's see, and Broncos. So I'm really not on Bengals too. But I really don't think I'm going to defend myself a bit here. I really don't think, you know, based on the preseason and how things are looking going into the year, that my predictions were too like egregious or like too, like near or far sighted, however you want to phrase it. Like I wasn't missing anything. Hopefully, I'm making sense, but I don't think it was too, egregious to like think, for example, the Broncos are going to go 3-14. Uh, okay, maybe I reached a bit with the Bengals going 13-4. The Jets at 12. Maybe that was a bit of a reach. Okay, so maybe I did reach a bit, but I don't think I reached too far and was like too. I wasn't too delusional. Is what I'm trying to say. Um, Moving on to the NFC here. Let's see. So I was pretty bad with the NFC East. I got Philly. I was pretty close with Philly. I had them at 12-5. They went 14-3, so I was 2 games off with Philly. I had them winning the division. So, actually, that reminds me. Let's see. How many division winners did I predict? I went two of four here. I obviously the Chiefs, Texans won their divisions, Bengals, and the Jets certainly did not. Yeah, I so divisional standings weren't too hot, I guess, but um, again, I mean, I guess getting half of them right isn't too bad. Um, but anyway, back to the Eagles here. I said the Eagles to again get 12 wins, but not a very pretty 12 wins. I didn't expect them to kind of be as dominant as they were after their bye week. I expected them to look how they did the first couple weeks, and they were 2-2 for most of the season. But I still had them at 12 wins. Dallas dead wrong on. I also expected Dallas to take a step back, but I'm like, they're the Cowboys. I'm like, you know, they'll find a way to, compete for the division. I think they'll definitely take a step back. They'll probably make the playoffs, but maybe win a game at most and then lose in the divisional round. Even when they're a juggernaut, it's impossible for them to get to the conference championship game anyway. But I had them at 11-6. Obviously, that didn't pan out. They win what 7-10, I believe. So a couple games off there, not too great. Giants, I was pretty close with. I had them at 5-12. I was not optimistic with the Giants at all this year. They win what 3-14, so two games off there. Washington is obviously the big one. I got wrong, dead wrong. Kind of like Denver, I was not too optimistic, but Washington going into the year, and even though I hit them, excuse me, even though I had them at only one more win than Denver, I was more optimistic with Washington than I was Denver. And I think I mentioned it earlier in this video, but some people had Washington, were more optimistic with Washington. Some people were having them, competing for the division title, just getting above 500, seeking in the playoffs. But, the season they had going 12-5, making it a game short of the Super Bowl, losing to the Eagles in the conference championship. I don't think anyone could have predicted that. And again, even the most optimistic of Washington fans, kind of like Denver's season, I don't think could have predicted it. So maybe I lowballed the Commanders a bit here. But again, going back to the preseason logic going into the year, I don't think it was too egregiously bad. But credit to Washington, definitely played a lot better than I and most people were anticipating. And the future's bright for them. Just got Debo. NFC South, okay, NFC South I was pretty close with. Well, I guess the division winner was obviously Ron. I had the Falcons at 10-7. They win 8-9. I had the Bucks at 9-8. They win 11-6. So, I was in the ballpark. I was back and forth on Bucks, Falcons. It looks like the Falcons had the division on lock for a good part of the year, especially after they swept the Bucks. And then, Kirk Cousins looked horrible for a couple games. They went on a losing streak, and it was just not good. The Bucks got hot. They won the division. So I wasn't too far off with both those teams there. The Saints I was pretty close with. What did they go? 5, 6, 6-11, I believe. Up top of my head, I believe they went. I had them at 7-10. So what? A game off. So yeah, pretty accurate with the Saints there. I certainly didn't expect them to look like the greatest offense in NFL history for the first 2 weeks. I don't think anyone did. And then they came back down to earth after that. Panthers, I was sort of close with. I expected the Panthers to be really bad this year. And, they started out looking how I expected them. They looked like one of the worst teams in NFL history. And, then they benched Bryce Young. They played a bit better. They played great against the Raiders. Dalton looked great against the Raiders. And, Bryce Young came back the second half of the year. They played a lot better. What did the Panthers finish? What did they finish? 5-12? 5-12, driving me insane here. I gotta look it up. I want to say 5-12. Let's see. Yeah, 5-12. So, the Saints finished 5-12 too. So I was 2 games off them. So I'm pretty close to the Saints, I think. So pretty close, 2 games off both the Saints and the Panthers. So again, I had the division winner Ron for the NFC South, but the NFC South I wasn't, predicting from the preseason and looking back now after the season, I was relatively close in my predictions. NFC West, yep, this was another rough one I had. I had the Niners at 13-4. Obviously, they had a disaster of a year, and even going into the year, I was I don't want to say not optimistic, but I was very, you know, I was, how do I phrase this? I had a lot of concerns about the Niners and their Super Bowl hangover, and that I think that's exactly what happened. They were around 500. They were blowing some games early in the year. Um, Getting some injuries. They were kind of a mess as the year progressed later and later. And what did they finish? 6-11, 7-10, something like that. So definitely off with the Niners. Uh, but again, going in the year on paper, I don't think it was too, you know, delusional for me to predict them going 13-4. The Rams I got spot on. Again, not the in terms of the exact games you're going to win and lose, but the Rams went 11-6. Right? Yeah, they went 11-6, so I was, pretty good with the Rams. They won the division. So again, Ron division winner there. Seattle, I was off on, flipped their record. They went at 10-7. I had them at 7-10. I thought they could be a sweeper team this year. They were, but honestly, they were better than I was expecting. Credit to the Seahawks there. Cardinals, I was definitely wrong with. They were better than I expected them to be. And for a while, they were leading their division pretty late into the season. It looked like they might be able to steal it the way things were progressing in that division. That was before the Rams got hot. And then trying to remember exactly what happened. Oh yeah, then they got swept by the Seahawks, and that pretty much ended their division chances. So they finished 8-9. So I guess only 3 games off of the Cardinals, but most people I think had the Cardinals at more than 5 wins, which again, for me, it kind of comes down to the balancing out of wins and losses to all the teams. Cardinals got the short end of the stick, and I'm like, all right, is this team really going to have this many losses? And I'm like, I'll give them the win against the Cardinals. Like games like that compared to like another team, like a really good team. Hoping that makes sense. But yeah, not too far off the Cardinals, but not too pretty with my NFC West predictions there. My NFC North predictions, with the exception of the Vikings, I was pretty close. I had the Lions win the division at 12-5. They went 14 and 14-3, right? Or no, they went 15-2. Yeah. They right, I'm not losing my mind here, am I, people? Let me double check. I'm pretty sure they went 15-2. Yeah, they went 15-2. So they got 3 more wins than I was expecting them to. And unlike the Chiefs, they actually looked like a 15-win team. So, Lions 3 games off. Won a lot of clutch games this season. Obviously didn't pan out in the playoffs, but if only that defense didn't get as banged up as it was. Packers I had at 11-6. They went 11-6, right? I'm pretty sure they went 11-6. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they went 11-6. So I was pretty good there. Again, I didn't get 100% the games they would get, or they would win and lose, correct? But yeah, pretty good. Let me double check here. Okay, so yeah, I wasn't 100% on the games that they would win and lose. Like that New Orleans game doesn't look too pretty. Seattle, they blew them out. So, some wins and losses were a bit off. But hey, I had them at 11-6 still. Bears, what did they go? 5-12, 6-11. So a couple games off there, 1-2 games off. The Bears, I thought could make the playoffs this season, but I hit them at 7-10, obviously missing out. I thought they had the potential to be like a 9-10, maybe even 11. That might be pushing it, win team. But, they started off good, and then that Hail Mary, they just were not a good team after that. Just completely derailed their season. They lost every game with the exception of last week against the Green, or not like last week in terms of real life time. I meant the last week of the regular season, week 18, against the Packers. So yeah, the Bears not too far off with them record wise. Vikings definitely was off with them. Obviously, they went 14-3. And again, I expected the Vikings to be like mid this season. I know 6-11 isn't exactly mid, but I expected them to be kind of floating around 500, be contending for a playoff spot late in the year. And not getting in. But I was a bit high on the Vikings than most people were. even though I had them at 6-11. I thought they could pull off a couple upsets against a good team. Like for example, I had them beating the Lions, the Texans, the I was going to say the Cardinals, but I had the Cardinals at what 5-12. So I had them winning against a couple good teams. Packers, I had them winning. So I was a bit optimistic on the Vikings. Well, not, I mean, in comparison to some other people, I think the win loss of the Vikings is like 6.5, or the over under for their wins and losses. So I was right around there. But no one I don't think expected them to win 14 games. Them, the Broncos, and Commanders were definitely the surprise teams this year. I think for everyone. Other than that, I think everyone was kind of in the ballpark in terms of how they thought each team was going to be this season in terms of wins and losses. So yeah, not too far off in the NFC North, with the exception of the Vikings. Yes, the Lions are the only division winner I got right. Oh, and the Eagles. So yeah, so I got half my division winners right, two in each conference. So I went 4-8. So yeah, half of the division winners I got right at least. Oh boy, this is when it starts to get ugly. Yep. All right. So having the Bengals as Super Bowl champs definitely makes me look like an idiot. I knew it was bold. And again, I just was not too optimistic with the Bengals going into the year with all the storylines, but I just thought they had a very favorable schedule. And when they get in the playoffs, they play their best ball late in the year, the past couple of years in the Joe Burrow era. I just thought they were going to go on a run. Yeah, the Jets is the 2 seed. That was a disaster. Well, I got the Texans the 4 seed, correct? Yeah, the Browns is the 5 seed. Obviously, that couldn't have been further from the truth. Um, the Ravens is the 6 seed. They were the 3 seed. The Bills is the 7. Okay, so yeah, these were pretty bad. These are pretty bad. I had the Jets beating the Bills in the wild card. The Chiefs beating the Ravens in the wild card. All right, so at least that's doable. The Chiefs and the beating the Ravens in the wild card. The Texans beating the Browns in a rematch, the wild card from the year prior. So I think these two games, if they would have happened, well, well, I can't say they would have happened because the Browns were a disaster this year. But Chiefs Ravens, that was a doable matchup at least. Again, I had the Bengals beating the Texans and the Chiefs beating the Jets, and then I had the Bengals beating the Jets. I mean the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl. So yeah, not too great from the AFC side. How did I do in the NFC here? Okay, so not okay, so bad, but not as bad as the AFC. So obviously the Niners did not get the 1 seed. They didn't even make the playoffs, obviously. The Eagles, well, at least I got the Eagles right. The Eagles were the 2 seed in real life. I had them as the 2 seed in my predictions here. The Lions are the 1 seed. I had them at 3. Well, the Falcons obviously didn't make the playoffs, but Bucks got the 4 seed, so at least I got the NFC South winner is the 4 seed, correct? That was the 5 seed. Oh, the Vikings. So obviously that was wrong. Them and Dallas is the 5 seed. The Rams are the 4 seed. Who the hell was the 6 seed in real life? Oh yeah, Washington. Washington was. So obviously off in that. The Packers were the 7 seed in real life at 11-6. So at least I got that correct. And as a matter of fact, I even predicted the wild card match, not the winner correctly. I had the Packers upsetting the Eagles, but I had Green Bay and Philly in the wild card, and that's exactly what happened. So at least I got that right. Um, I had the Packers upsetting the. See, I was higher on the Packers going in here than most people. I had them upsetting the Eagles, and again, my mindset was, my logic was, okay, I don't think the Eagles are going to be, if they're going to win 12 games, that I don't think they're going to be, something's going to be off with them all year. And it's going to show in the playoffs. The Packers play their best ball in the playoffs, it feels like, or when the stakes matter most. At least the past, well, I guess they, didn't play too great against the Eagles, at least their offense, in the wild card. But, the year prior, no one expected them to beat Dallas. They beat Dallas. No one expected them to beat the Niners, and they should have. They outplayed the Niners that game. They should have won, but they blew it. I had them beating the Niners in the divisional round. Then I had them coming up short to Detroit to get to the Super Bowl. So I had Detroit in the Super Bowl, my preseason. So that I don't think is delusional. Okay, not most, but a good amount of people did. I honestly think if the Lions didn't get all the injuries they did defensively, I think they would have gone to the Super Bowl. Either them or Philly. I certainly think out of the NFC. Um, Rams over Lions. I don't think, or sorry, Lions over Rams. That if those two teams match up, I don't think that would have, you know, been delusional. Dallas over Atlanta. Um, so yeah, neither of those teams made the playoffs. So obviously that prediction's off. Detroit over Dallas, that would have happened. I feel strongly of Packers over Niners. Again, the Niners didn't even make the playoffs, so who knows? The Packers blew them out in the regular season. The Niners, again, had a bunch of injuries, but Purdy didn't even play that game. So my Super Bowl matchup was Detroit and Cincy. Oh boy, just a bit off in that one. At least I wasn't too far off of the Lions. I know they got upset in the divisional round. They went 15-2 in the 1 seed. So, hypothetically, if a team is the 1 seed at 15 wins, there's a very strong chance they're getting to the Super Bowl. Um, Even though I had the Lions as a 3 seed in my scenario at 12-5. And again, Super Bowl chance Bengals. See, when I predicted this in the preseason, I was like, okay, kind of leaning Lions. And I'm like, I don't know, there's the role the Bengals are on. I'm like, man, I'll just give them the slight edge. Oh boy, Bengals didn't even make the playoffs, and I had them as Super Bowl champions. Now, again, in my defense, the Bengals, no one could have seen their defense, I don't think, being as bad as it was. And even with their defense being historically bad, they went 9-8 and were marginally close on making the playoffs. And if they would have made the playoffs, they would have played the Bills in the round one. Who knows what would have happened? And if they would have won that, they would have played the Chiefs. And the Chiefs did not play very great against the Texans. Again, they played that game, classic Chiefs game for the whole regular season, just an ugly game, but they were winning and they ended up closing it out late. With the Bengals, should have beaten them in the regular season, and you don't want to base everything off of the regular season matchup, but the Texans played them that close, and I think the Bengals match up far better than the Texans did. I think the Bengals would have a decent chance of upsetting them. And then, who would they have played in the conference championship game? Who knows? But I don't know. It's a hypothetical. Maybe I'm stretching things out here. But yeah, obviously a bit off with my playoff bracket there. Not too pretty. Look like an idiot there. Yep, and my awards were, oh God. Oh my God. Well, my awards were pretty bad too. All right, I guess the closest one I had was Joe Burrow for MVP. Had the Bengals made the playoffs, I don't think he would have won MVP. But if I was a voter, I would have voted Joe Burrow for MVP this season. I think he was the best quarterback in football this season. I know that's controversial. I talked about it in my QB rankings video, but I thought Joe Burrow was the best quarterback in the NFL this past season. So at least I was sort of close to Joe Burrow for MVP. Finished as a top five, finalist for it. Oh boy, Coach of the Year. Oh boy, yeah. I had Robert Sala, who was fired, 4 games into the season. So just a bit off on that one. I actually think the Jets to be really good this year. Rodgers to look good, the defense, the offense to look good. Jets have a really good year. So that was my logic with that, but obviously a bit off. Offensive player of the year, I had Tyreek. I, expected him to have a really good year. Obviously, he had a very subpar year. The Dolphins' offense just not too great this year compared to the prior years with Mike McDaniel and Tua and company. So just a bit off there. TJ Watt, defensive player of the year, that was kind of a safe bet. Obviously, he didn't win it, but, that definitely isn't delusional, predicting him to win the award again going into the year. Caleb Williams, most people had him as offensive rookie of the year, so that was a fair prediction. Obviously, it did not work out. Jane Daniels easily won that award. Oh boy, defensive rookie of the year. I had the Colts top pick, their defensive tackle. Yep, just a bit off there. Just a bit off there. Oh boy. Then oh boy, speaking of just a bit off. Aaron Rodgers for comeback player of the year. And again, I expected Rodgers to have a really good year. So I don't think it was going into the year too far fetched of a take to say he's going to win comeback player of the year, but obviously that did not happen. Who the hell won it this year? Was it Darnold? Um, I can't know. Why am I blanking on this? Um, oh, it's Burrow, right? Just okay. Why is this so confusing? Can you just tell me who won the freaking award? Oh yeah, it was Burrow. All right, so at least if I predicted Burrow to win MVP, but Burrow won comeback player of the year, so at least I got that one right. Um, yeah, Jared Verse obviously won defensive rookie of the year easily. So my awards were bad, my playoffs were bad. Again, most of my predictions were bad, but it's preseason. A lot of things happen. Teams drastically overachieve or underachieve than what we're expecting them to. So that happened with me. I got some right. Again, so a lot of my predictions were bad. I got some right, or was in the ballpark with some. It's hard to predict in the preseason. So not very great, but at least I got some things right. The year prior when I did this were all my predictions. Most of them were definitely more accurate than the ones I had here. But again, if everyone did these videos, these types of videos, or Excel sheets, predictions, whatever, I don't think, they would be too pretty either. So, in my defense there a bit, but, got some right again. So yeah, not too great, but at least I got some right. Definitely will be doing this again for this upcoming season next year. I'll probably record it and walk through it. I didn't do that for this season. I just listed or pasted this Excel sheet on my website. Um, so yeah, I'll probably record it when I make this sheet, when it comes time for next season. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously a different type of video. Um, I will end the video here. Thank you guys for tuning in. My next video, I'm going to do a tiers list for every team if they overachieved, underachieved, finished how we expect them to, things like that, based on this past season. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed. Take it easy, guys.